What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports here on the Oklahoma channel at the Voice of College Football. We got the brand new 2023 schedule released today from the Big 12. We're going to break it all down. Before we get to 2023, let's look back at 2022. Here was the schedule from last season for Oklahoma. You can see Nebraska was the non-conference game, played them on the road. They had TCU on the road, Iowa State on the road, West Virginia on the road, and Texas Tech on the road. You look at that before the season started and you thought, this really sets up really well for Oklahoma. You get some of the bigger games. Baylor we thought was going to be a tougher game. Oklahoma State we thought was going to be, we thought those were potentially top 15 teams in the preseason, and they had them at home. So we thought the schedule set up really well for them. Obviously losing Dylan Gabriel in the TCU game, that set them back there, but just not a good finish with the losses to Baylor, West Virginia, and Texas Tech. We'll see how it plays out this year, but let's first, before we go look at the full schedule, let's look at the non-conference schedule, the teams they'll play outside of the Big 12. They'll play Arkansas State, SMU, and Tulsa. They will play Tulsa on the road, but a very easy non-conference schedule. I believe, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they had Georgia originally scheduled for this season, and because of the move to the SEC, they canceled that series. So that would have made it obviously a much tougher non-conference schedule. But as it stands in 2023, again, Oklahoma will have a very, very easy non-conference schedule. So let's go week by week. Here's the full schedule, including the Big 12 conference games. They will open up with Arkansas State on September the 2nd, SMU on the 9th, then on the road at Tulsa on September 16th. So they play all three of their non-conference games there right at the beginning, and that's usually the way it works in the Big 12. All right, so their first Big 12 game will be against a newcomer. It'll be on the road at Cincinnati. Interesting way to start off Big 12 play there on September the 23rd. And then after that, it's a home game against Iowa State on the 30th. Then you jump into the game against Texas on October 7th. That game will be in Dallas like it always is. So that's your first half of the schedule. A bye week after Texas, a bye week right there in the middle. But again, Cincinnati, Iowa State, Texas, an interesting start there to the Big 12 conference schedule for Oklahoma. I would say they can't win all three of those games, but it'll be a challenge, especially Cincinnati on the road, and we know Texas, they're going to be good. Iowa State could be sneaky good this year. They were really young last year. But that's the first half. After the bye week, they will start the second half of the season off with the other newcomer, UCF, the other newcomer on their schedule. They get UCF at home. Really interesting game there with Dylan Gabriel playing his old team. That game will be on October the 21st. Then after that, it's Kansas on the 28th. That game will be on the road. It's back-to-back road games with Kansas and then Oklahoma State. Not too horrible there, as Oklahoma State will start off the month of November. Then they'll play West Virginia after that, a team that has given Oklahoma some trouble since they've come into the Big 12 at times. Then they play BYU on the road on the 18th, and then they'll close things out with TCU. Interesting way to finish out the season. They'll play TCU, and they will play them on the Friday after Thanksgiving. So that'll be a Friday game. Potentially, those two teams could meet again the very next week in the Big 12 championship. I'm not saying it's going to go that way, but those are two of the contenders, so it could happen. That would be very interesting there as well. But again, when you look at the full schedule here, the newcomers that they will play, Cincinnati and UCF, so they don't play... actually, they play Cincinnati, UCF, and BYU, so they'll play three of the newcomers, all of them except for Houston. When I was looking over the schedule, I thought that all the teams were only going to play two. So they will not play Texas Tech. That's a team, a traditional Big 12 team. Also, no Kansas State. Kansas State is a team that has given them some trouble in the past. Also, Baylor is not on here. So you're talking about three teams that beat Oklahoma last year, not on the schedule this year. That is interesting. And again, playing three of the newcomers. I thought that it was going to be where each team would play two of them, but maybe the math doesn't work out there. So they'll get three of them: Cincinnati, UCF, and BYU. You trade those for the games that they would have had against Kansas State, Texas Tech, and Baylor. So probably a pretty good trade-off there. Kansas State has given Oklahoma a lot of trouble in the past. Baylor has a chance to be pretty good this year. They were young last year. And Texas Tech actually has a chance to be sneaky good this year as well. But Cincinnati, UCF, BYU, those will be pretty good games as well. So it'll be a much different look here for Oklahoma, not playing some of those traditional Big 12 teams that you're so used to seeing them play. With 3 of the new teams in there, that means only 6 of their games will be against teams that were in the Big 12 last season. But all in all, the schedule's not too tough. You got back-to-back road games, Tulsa and Cincinnati, back-to-back road games with Kansas and Oklahoma State. But it sets up pretty well for them. TCU is at home. UCF is at home. West Virginia, a tough place to play. You get that game at home. Oklahoma State could be down. I mean, they lost a lot in the transfer portal. So you might would like to play a team like Oklahoma State if you're going to have back-to-back road games. So, yeah, I think this schedule sets up pretty well for Oklahoma. An easy non-conference schedule. Nothing too challenging. They don't have like a tough 3-game stretch that's going to be really, really hard in the Big 12. So overall, a schedule I think that sets up really well for Oklahoma in 2023.